Yeah, go ahead.
Is this place taken?
Go ahead.
I saved it for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where he shops. Otherwise he didn't know about it.
I'll probably need to get a second. Since I'm
You made the chair. Chair.
Try to see this one. Yeah, how many sets? Usually it's just a set. Oh, this is one.
He had that surgery last week.
No? There's a fire. 2 pages? Well, wait a minute, please. Make sure I got one real. Did you get the fire one?
Yeah, please.
We only need one anyway.
Okay, please.
Yeah. I need one.
Let me go make some copies.
Yeah,
we got more here. Yeah, we still got more.
Yeah.
Police or fire? I got one of these. Okay. I got fire. I think everybody's here.
Oh, okay. I have no fire.
I did. Say that now.
Well, somebody took it.
Yes, they did. We're gonna share.
You need a fire. Do you have any more fires, extra fires? Yeah, full didn't get one.
Here. Here's the
You
fire.
don't want that anyways.
No. He talks more than what's on that.
I know.
I don't understand.
He's gotta go now, you're running this meeting. Chief, he's gotta go now, you're running this meeting.
That'll be all for tonight.
Any questions about the paper?
Oh, one of my trucks is broke. I need a gazillion dollars.
He's thinking, give him time, he's thinking.
Yeah. The dog's pregnant.
I need more ammo.
I didn't do it.
I'd like to buy a helicopter.
I have one. It's a stealth helicopter.
You got one viral now.
Sell tickets.
What do we got here?
Tucker, it's back on,
Something to
right?
read while you're after coffee tomorrow morning.
You've lost control.
Alrighty. You guys got that one? All right, everybody. We'll start tonight with fire at 5:33.
Very good. It's a fine. Everybody got power. Statistics are off a little bit based on what we logged at the station. What kind of fire was showing. We ended up fire run wise for 2012, 53 for the month. Versus 34 from last year, 221 fire calls versus the 182, EMS 177. You can see EMS calls are up dramatically, and transports are up there also. I have 2 legislative requests.
Chief, you got any reasoning for that?
Well, part of it was just due to this last weekend, but they were up about 40 EMS calls the previous year anyway.
Yeah.
We were down a little bit last year, so that's just one of those. It varies from month to month. Can't predict it. I mean, when you look at the number of
How about the fire runs,
the
though?
fire runs are up dramatically due
Yeah.
to the last couple weeks with the heat and such.
When a building that has been out of power for a while comes back on and their alarms go off, you're called out.
Yes.
Does that count as a fire run, even though
That
it's
does
just a
count as a
false
fire
alarm, basically?
That's correct. it does.
Okay.
So, yeah, not all these were actual structure fires, but the Wendy's sign. When the power came up, the light, or the sign came down.
Uh-huh.
They got dispatched on a working sign fire, and put that up. So anyway, we didn't have what you call a whole lot of false alarms compared to a lot of windstorms and things we've had, I think. And it really surprised me because as long as the power had been out, you know, normally your battery powered security systems will only last for a couple days before things are going. But I think there was just such a widespread lack of that. I really just don't have a good explanation for it. I would have assumed we would have had a lot more false alarm calls than we did. We had more, of course, lines down, trees burning, things like that that we were dispatched on.
Yeah.
Some building fires. We were there Friday night towards the end of the month when the storm really let loose. You know, that first night we had 36 calls, 15 the next day, 27 the next day, 29 the next day. So we were running all over the place. And a lot of that was in the city, not just mutual. Like we had for the month, we had 44 total mutual aid calls, which is not double what we normally have, but I think we had somewhere like 44, and I think we had 34 times that Hebron, Granville, York, whatever was in helping us on calls, assisting us. So, legislative requests, I have two. One, did I answer your question?
Yep.
Or anybody else have any questions? One is just, I mentioned this last meeting, we received a $300 donation from the Eagles, that's the Heart Fund. I'm just asking now, we finally did get, they've given us just a receipt for that. We, since last meeting, received that money and it was deposited into the general fund. It's supposed to be earmarked for money for cardiac. This is a project that they do during the February, and they call it their Heart Fund. So asking that $300 be transferred out of the general fund and back into our EMS account that we were using for cardiac stuff.
You don't need, you can go through the regular process on that.
That's correct. I don't need emergency legislation. The second one is, and I don't know whether I'd actually called Lynn, could talk with her and called you, Mayor, but you were unavailable. This was a little earlier, about 5 o'clock-ish, as I was writing this thing out. Our hose tester is old. It blows circuits. It needs reworked again. And I don't know whether to declare it. I want to be able to make it available to possibly trade in or sell outright. And then that proceeds go towards the purchase of a newer or a better model. There's a lot of things wrong with it. And this was about a $3,500 unit at the time, but I've had it welded up at the tech center. It's got a 5-horse electric motor on it, and I'd like to convert it over to a gasoline. But after I had our guys brainstorm on it, it's probably better to buy one that was set up that way versus us trying to retrofit it. The 5-horse motor blows fuses. It should be running off of a 220 circuit versus 100. So it's a real pain in the butt. We replaced that motor one time, had it rebuilt one time, so it's actually, the motor gives us fits.
How old is it?
This is 2000 vintage. I think the thermal imagery were about the first two things I bought right after I turned.
So you want to sell that or trade it in?
I want to, make it available that we can either trade it in or possibly sell it outright, put it towards something.
So it's not really broke, it's just that it kicks the circuits in when you're trying to.
Kicks the circuit, it has some of the safety features are broken. It's got springs, it's got a manifold on it, and they almost, it's threaded, but it took a cutting torch to get some of them off last time to rebuild these slam valves. So if there's a leak in a hose, it doesn't, because we're pumping some of this stuff up to 800 PSI to test it. And so, it's got some safeties that are broken on it.
What's the new one cost you?
I haven't even started pricing it yet. I still thought this one could be
So
with a motor, but
to create that much pressure, what size of the motor do you need? What size of the motor do the new ones have? And will new ones also blow 110 fuses?
well, right. I'm going from an electric motor to a gasoline,
Oh, I'm sorry.
like a Honda driven.
Okay.
And when we bought this one, at the time, we have receptacles outside the building on the trucks, but that's a problem with a 5-horse motor. It pulls so much electric, it's constantly blowing the circuits on whatever you plug it into.
Are these about how big are they? About how big are these?
It reminds you of, you've seen a pressure washer that you buy.
Yeah.
Just slightly wider, but on the same cart design.
So they're mobile.
Yes, they are.
Are there? How often do we test hoses? Pressure test hoses? Once a year.
Once a year. It's required, and we're testing about 8,000 foot of hose.
How many hoses then does that equate to? Or do you just hook them all together and test them all?
Well, no, you can only. it takes all season in between.
2 miles of hose, simultaneous.
Our 5-inch supply lines come in 100-foot sections. The rest of our hoses all 50-foot sections.
Okay.
And we can usually test about 300 foot, 5-inch, 3 sections of about 600-700 feet of 5-inch at a time.
Okay.
And then everything else that we've got.
So you pressure test the hoses annually. How long does it take to test all of the hoses that we have?
Well, each shift has got certain trucks as well as a volunteer divvied up amongst them, but it takes all day of a given day to test.
So 24-hour period of time then?
Oh, yeah. 12 hours.
Okay.
To test each rush. And then there's, of course, 3 pumpers, the tower. Then we've got some extra hose at both stations that are also tested.
So how many hours are spent pressure testing the hoses?
I'd have to sit
I mean,
down. Yeah.
12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours? How many hours does it take to pressure test all the hoses that we have?
Well, you'd have 60, based on 4 trucks that you're testing in a hose rack, which is almost as much hose. So 60 to 80 hours in a given year.
Okay.
And now this pump is a 1 gallon, what the heck's the name? I mean, it's a glorified pressure washer is what it is, with a pressure regulator, but then you've got 2.5-inch threaded fire hose fittings that, these hoses screw on, you've got to vacate the air out of it. So anyway, I mean, is that giving you your answer?
I think so.
I'll say
Yeah.
no more than 80 hours a season.
Okay. And do all fire departments have to do this once a year? Is it a standard requirement?
It's an FAA requirement.
Okay. Is there a way where, rather than buying a new piece of equipment, that we're only going to use for a relatively short period of time in however many hours are in a year. Is there a way that we could use another department's equipment since it's mobile, and then for the week or however long it would take us to pressure test all the hoses that we need to test?
Licking County Firefighters Association actually owns a hose tester, and it is passed around the county. It's currently broke. We're getting, I've been involved with that one. It has an issue, and whenever you need it, somebody else usually has it signed out. Or
Well, if you only have to test once a year, I mean, we don't have, we don't have 40 different departments in the county.
We're testing several days out of that year or whatever, and it isn't something that just.
You
How
can't do
many-
it 60 consecutive hours, see what you're saying. You can't do it because of calls and other
How-
things.
I guess what I'm thinking is this an opportunity to partner with other departments who are required to pressure test their hoses, so that there's one piece of equipment that's utilized by multiple departments for the limited period of time, relatively speaking, needed to pressure test hoses. I'm not quite sure I understand the logic of Heath owning one, and Granville Township owning one, and West Licking Fire owning one, and Hebron owning one, and I'm not sure I understand the logic of that. When, like I said, in a 365-day calendar, you're using that piece of equipment for a pretty short period of time. Does that make sense?
I know where you're coming from.
So, do you know what departments in the county have hose pressure testers now?
Granville, for one, does have a hose tester.
Okay.
We've loaned them ours when theirs was broke,
Okay.
and vice versa.
Mutual aid.
Yeah,
It's called
right.
mutual aid.
Pleasantville, Ralph Swickens brought Pleasantville's in to test when ours was broke
From Fairfield County?
from Fairfield County. So, I mean, we do share some of their stuff. We've loaned ours out a couple times. Don't like to do that because. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a company who does this?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that will come in and test your, I
Oh,
know,
yeah, I
it's
mean-
a cost, but I mean, is that a yearly cost? It's not gonna be the cost of buying one of these machines, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Fire?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the labor costs are gonna be 80–90% of, but yeah,
That's true.
it would not be cost effective, and we're utilizing our people to do it. I mean, not to mention, ISO credit and everything else, but
Will that pump double as double as an auxiliary pump? That they can use it?
as a fire pump, you mean,
Yeah, okay. I'm just curious.
it would
I'm trying to help.
double. Some of them double as a power washer if you needed it or whatever, but normally I understand. It's just something that, sharing. I can't say it's an expensive luxury, it's just something that you need, and it has not worked out in past tense
Some other ones go in with it.
because of not having something readily available when we needed it, at our convenience.
Is there,
Yes, sir.
is there any way that we might, shop around and see about, some of the other entities in the county willing to go in and?
Oh, sure, yeah. The big thing is if something comes up or there's a deal or whatever, I mean, we can declare this, and this is why I wasn't sure exactly how to word this. It doesn't mean we have to sell this thing, but we're declaring it available if we do, and I know, just like, the ice maker, it's like, Heath, can you sell this at the auction? It's like, no, we can't until we go through the formality of running it through council.
Yeah.
So I'm just ahead of the game on this one,
Yeah.
because we haven't researched that.
Yeah.
But if something comes up, or we can get a heck of a trade-in, or something, I just don't see pumping a lot of money in this one
because of some of the problems that we've encountered in past tense.
I agree with that thinking. I guess I was taking the next step, which I think you were saying we'd like to buy a replacement for this one. And I guess what I'm thinking is buying a replacement the smartest use of money when, as I said, it's only needed for a relatively short period of time when you're talking about a calendar year. It would seem to me to be smarter for us and for all the departments in Licking County to have one piece of equipment that is shared by all the departments in the county. How many different departments are there in the county? 19. Okay, so each department could have that equipment for about 2.5 weeks out of the calendar year, and you just, okay, you got it for 2.5 weeks. Get your hose testing done now. You know, to me that would seem to make more sense.
Now, does it have to be done with, or what's the parameter when it has to be done?
And I mean, it just says in the calendar year or whatever, you're not gonna, because of exposure and cold temperatures and things like that, you're not gonna be testing hose out in the snow.
January, February,
Yeah, so, I mean, you're limited to the warmer months, but that still gives you, you know.
Well, if each department had it for 2 weeks, that's 38 weeks. That eliminates 3 months. December, January, February, where nobody would need to hose test in the cold. March through November is when the departments would hose test. You know what I mean?
You have no idea how much a new one is.
I'm sorry.
You have no idea how much a new one is.
Anywhere from probably $2,500 to $4,500. And I'm not opposed to buying a used unit if it's better and has some things that ours currently doesn't have. And when I say that, I'm just talking about some of these safety valves and things that are going to have to be rebuilt. Last time, you know, it's threaded. Sometimes they'll use like Never-Sees or a hardening type dope, but we had to take cutting torches and get this stuff off. And just for being, they used aluminum stainless, and it's just kind of almost welded itself to the stuff. So we probably compromised the manifold. And come over and see it. Okay. I mean, that's the best way to talk about it. But for convenience for us and to do it like it's supposed to be done, we probably should convert it to from a gasoline.
Why not look into going with the top of the line piece of equipment if you can get the majority of the other companies in this county to go in and say, yes, we'll kick in a little bit, let's buy the top of the line, even if it's $5,000 or $6,000. And you got all 19 of them saying, yeah, we'll go in on it. And you get the top of the line deal where, hey, it's not breaking down on you every other week, or, as being used. How long? You've had that one since 2000, you said? So 12 years, it's been a lot of use out of 12 years. But that's what I'm looking at.
Chief, what's the useful word? Let's just say it's worth $1,500.
And I really don't want to tell you.
And if the new one did cost $3,000 and it lasts for 10 years, what's your annual cost to have that piece of equipment? To me, it's not that much. To me, I understand what you were saying here. It's probably come out really the wrong way, but I kind of feel we're splitting hairs over a few bucks. I really do. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion because I loan stuff out and I try not to. There's like very select people I loan to because I know what happens. I don't get it back or I got to go get it. And I'm usually disappointed when I do get it back or I do get it because it's not in the same shape it was when I loaned it to them. So I don't know. Do you have enough in your budget to cover it anyway? Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. Yeah.
I don't know. I understand your thought too, man, because you're the guy who has to bounce a budget every year.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand.
And I think
Go ahead.
we need to start getting very comfortable with the idea that the pennies we save become the dollars that we save.
We know it all adds up.
I think, and I also think it sends an important message that we do what we can when we see the opportunity to be good stewards of the tax money that we receive.
Well, that's why I said it probably is gonna come out sounding the wrong way. Maybe that is being a bad steward. It's just, me as a business owner, it's my honest opinion that my tools are my business. I'm not gonna share with another company. There's no way. You know, Kaiser's not gonna share their tools with our American tools. They're not gonna do it. And it would be one thing if it's a piece of equipment that costs $150,000 or $160,000. Then you gotta say, what are my options? But for a piece of equipment that if it did cost $3 grand, cost you $300 a year to have, if it lasts you 10 years, to me I understand what you're saying. Yes.
I just wanted to weigh in because I was totally on board until I listened to what Doug said. And that kind of turned me to what you're saying, because if you think about a life expectancy of the hours of usage of a piece of equipment, so we can pay for it and it can last us for 12 years, or we can have it last for 1 year because we've got all these other places using it. We're still going to have about the same annual outgo over the long haul, and we're going to know the care of the equipment. So that, you know, like I said, I was totally buying that until I started, and you were making the other argument, but when I started to listen to that, I thought, you know, every piece of equipment, when you know, I look at, you know, a generator or whatever, it's like how many hours has it been used?
Right.
That's going to determine what the value of it is, and so I think that makes sense.
And I think too that what he's asking here is, I mean, he's not asking to go buy one yet.
Right.
He's
No,
just asking that, yeah, if I
So
find a deal.
Right. And
If
we
he
still have
doesn't
to
have
do
one, he's gonna want one.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, maybe you're asking for the option, maybe it's more of an option of, we can agree to the legislative request that it would be allowed or available for a trade-in, but you're gonna need a legislative request to buy a new one.
Right.
I don't know, I mean, it would suck to sell it, and you come back and say, oh, guys, I was wrong, it's about $20,000
But as far as a steward of taxpayer money, I take offense to that.
No need to
Because,
take offense to it, Chief.
well, I do a good job of watching over my money. When I get a good deal, whatever, I will jump on it. But I do pinch pennies, and I think I get a good bang for our buck in most cases. So it isn't a matter of, and I'll take anybody over at the firehouse and I'll show them, I'll explain it to them. If, you know, it doesn't meet their approval, then, you know, you can't please everybody. But I do make every attempt to try to save money and get a good deal with the taxpayer money. So
Well, I don't think there's any need to take offense to the concept of, in every opportunity, trying to implement that thinking. Do you know how many departments in the county don't have?
no merit.
Do all departments in the county have one, or
I would
do
say
some
no.
contract out like Doug was talking about, or do whatever arrangements, or?
No, Mayor, I don't. I
Okay.
can find out. I've got a chief's meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
But there would be no need for a county hose tester if every department had them. But as I said, I know here a while back there, the pressure regulator was busted on it. One of our departments, it was non-functional and they couldn't understand why it didn't run. Well, how they got to sitting out in the cold, it was froze. You know, it had water in it and they froze the damn thing up or what. So, I mean, it's.
You had a question?
Yeah, it's just slightly off base what you're talking about. After you test the hose, do you have a way you mark it or stamp it, or is it just simply paperwork? I mean, can they come in and look at your hose and tell that it wasn't done that year?
No. I mean, we mark the couplings to make sure that they don't shift. It's all recorded. But there really isn't a way to tell if that hose has been.
The reason I'm asking this is referring back to the mayor's question on how many departments don't have a tester. How many departments just
Don't
aren't
even check
tested. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
that goes
Yeah,
back.
if you have no way to certify that a hose has been tested
Unless
successfully,
number-
do you just not test the hose and
Unless
say,
it's
yeah, we
stamped
did?
number on them, that you have to record.
You're not going to accuse any department in the county of doing that, right?
I will say there are departments that don't do it. I'll also say there's probably departments that don't do flow testing on their regulators on their breathing air systems and don't test their ladders. I know of departments that don't test their ladders annually. Shame on them if something happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best money, you know. We carry insurance on things and it's a requirement. If somebody gets hurt, shame on the city. Because you just open the door and it'll cost you millions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's a fatality involved. And I mean, that's guidelines, it's those unfunded mandates that we have talked about. But we got ladder testing and regulators. I mean, you know, if we don't flow test our backflows at our fire stations or whatever, the EPA may get in our case. But I mean, these are just things that fire hose, we've had it blow apart before. And that doesn't mean someone's not gonna get hurt, but you better have documentation that shows that you tested it. I mean, that's just,
But it's
I think,
I mean, hey, tell me, if you guys want me to roll the dice, by all means.
It's to me, but it's to me the same way as Nick's saying right here. It's very difficult for me to understand how, if you do not have a numbering system, where numbers are stamped on, even stamped on the thing, the coupling itself. that
We
you-
do have one. Every section of hose has got numbers.
So that's then how you could
Well, yeah, I mean,
document.
every one of our hoses is identified.
You write
by
down
a number
hose
system.
1, 2, 3, 4 was tested successfully.
Okay, that's all I was wondering.
Yeah.
Even
And
if
we, yeah,
you know, you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
but
That's still
we
the
do
honor
test it,
it's
I
still
mean,
the honor for you.
but that's all we've got. We have an inventory of it.
Okay.
Numbering
That's all I was
system.
wondering.
When we test our hose, yeah, we take a black felt tip, but we don't stamp
No,
you know, a
no.
service date in the
No,
couplings or anything like that.
But you got a way of documenting that you did test this certain hose, section hose. That's all I
Yes.
you know. Okay.
But as far as a sticker or something like that that's
Yeah.
actually attached to that
Yeah.
section of hose,
Can you rent a machine like this?
you say, could
Is it
you?
rentable? Or
I would say,
what's
Yeah.
the
you're
cost?
asking, I don't know.
These are all good questions that we're kind of dancing around here, but, you know, what's it cost? It costs $200 to rent one of these things for a week or two. Let's say. Be nice to know.
Yeah, that's true too.
If we bought a $4,000 unit, and the ones that don't use it, we market it to them at $100 for 2 weeks. Guess what? And we'll be responsible for the maintenance. We make money. Ours is paid for over the course of well inside of the useful life of this thing. Just throwing out ideas here, okay? In lieu of just buying a piece of equipment you're possibly
that's
use
that.
for a week a year. That's kind of what this is boiling down.
So disregard this.
No, like I said, it's
I would say.
It's
no.
fine
You're
disposing
ahead
of
of
a
the
piece
game,
of broken
Chief.
equipment. It's fine disposing a piece of broken equipment, chief. Like I said, but old equipment going out, it's going to have to be replaced by something. I guess the conversation after that is how we go about replacing it. So, no, I mean, I have no problem with that legislative request saying that we want to dispose with the old tester.
But I think what you're saying is before you dispose of the old one, find a new
Well, yeah,
one.
have, legislatively being authorized to dispose of it doesn't mean that we have to run out the next day and dispose of
Like
it.
you
We can,
said, he's got the legislative request with the option of trade-in or whatever.
Right.
yeah,
And the chief certainly isn't gonna run out and sell the thing, not knowing where he's gonna get the next one, what's gonna cost him.
you got it.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so.
Yeah, that's why that's fine.
Pass it over here, Chief.
Are you sure?
Hey, you got 3 of us saying that.
Thanks. Moving along. Any questions on that?
Move right along.
Yeah, shepherd.
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead. You wanna borrow it, power wash your police car.
No, it's, I hand massage it.
It is, you're right, it's not gonna be a YouTube. Okay, Chief.
Monthly
Look
expense
over here.
report. Yes, thank you. June wages, 98,785. You can read the numbers. The overtime, 33 to 30.93. Total for the year, 110,823 compared to last year. Wages were up about 7,000, 6,000 plus dollars. Overtime this time was 33 versus 24 last year. And overtime last year was 94 compared to 110.
What's the difference with 68,000?
It's
Any
just
guys off sick or just a time of year?
vacation. They, you know, but last year they were taking vacation earlier too.
Okay.
But yeah, there was three. This pay that I turned in today about 380 hours of time off vacation time. Very little sick, just a couple hours comp, but it was primarily vacation time off.
Hey, Chief,
Yes, sir.
just a question for you here. The overtime amount, yeah, I mean, scheduling of vacations, and I think we've had one or two people maybe injure, right? Haven't we had one or two people that were
We
hurt?
have people that are going to be off. That does not include that as of yet.
Okay.
Gregory was going in and find out when they wanted to do surgery on his knee, and
Yeah.
I was gonna have to have some surgery.
And so if I'm understanding the note right, June of 2012, base pay, we had 3 pay days in June. We also had 3 pay days in June of 2011. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Is the base pay being up by more than $7,000? Is that just Doug Brown being a year more time, and is Cox maxed out too in his base pay? I can't remember. I'm trying to understand where the $7,000 difference in base pay in a month comes from.
I believe Cox is, I can make a phone call and get you that answer, but I believe he is already maxed out.
Okay.
So a lot of that would be Brown.
Okay. Okay. That seems like a lot for a month to be off. Because I know they didn't get any pay increase in the contract, so the base wages haven't changed from 2011 to 2012, other than for if you've had a year more experience and your base pay goes up. I'll talk to
Yeah.
I'll talk to
I
Debbie.
brought the statements.
I'll talk to Debbie and see if she can help me understand.
Why there is a difference. I can't give you
Yeah.
an answer.
And I guess I don't remember seeing a difference like that in any of the other months this year. Maybe because there were 3 pays in June, so maybe it highlights it. I don't know.
Yeah, normally we're running about 65,000 a month in payroll, so
Yeah.
the extra pay has made the difference there. But
I'll talk to Debbie.
please do, or I can get the answer for you and I'll tell you. Okay, under equipment, Tower 10, the compressor we're waiting on a compressor. Jay's is going to do the work for us to get the air conditioner back on Tower 10 working. Station 2, through the storm and such, when Station 2 is on emergency power, it has no air conditioning. So we're going to have that reworked. Our guys were busy and such, but I do hate that they have to endure that. because that station isn't well ventilated anyway, but, the generator, you know, station one was designed with like 110% generator capacity. Station two was a much smaller that did not allow for, yeah, it was undersized. Go ahead.
Well, just, they're gonna be, don't we get rid of the lift station, they're gonna have an extra generator? You can't have
We're gonna
it.
use it at a lift station we don't have a generator. It wouldn't be large enough anyway.
It wouldn't? Okay, just the box looks big to me.
I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be. I can't think what.
It doesn't matter
Size
anyways,
it
they
is.
use this somewhere else.
Yeah,
You've got 155, isn't it?
Is that what Fox Run is?
No, I'm just saying that generator, wasn't it 155K?
It could be.
I would just say it would be way oversized
Oh, would
for,
it?
yeah,
For the
for station two, yeah. But, with the air compressor system, you've got a air compressor, and then you have a breathing air compressor system with quite a large motor on it. And, you know, they take a rated capacity on a generator and figure the amp draw and such. And the generator could not accommodate both the air conditioning and the breathing air system on the emergency generator. So something had to go, and so we left the breathing air system up. But we're gonna flip-flop that around and have the air conditioner wired, because I do have a breathing air system at station one that we could fall back on if we needed.
So the air conditioner's working now.
No, not as of yet. I'm gonna have Gooden come in and transfer that circuitry over to the air so they can at least.
Wait. With the electricity now restored, the air conditioner works.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's right. This is strictly only on emergency power.
Yeah.
And you know, how often does that happen? However,
Yeah.
they were off for 3
Yeah.
days, and
Did I hear correctly that we also need to look at how we're ventilating the exhaust from the generator that we have?
there was some discussion about with the window open, but if the air conditioner is functioning, yeah, with the generator blowing and the prevailing winds at the time, it was blowing the emissions off the generator right into the bedroom window. They should have been numb enough. I don't know what they were worried about. But anyway, there was some discussion about possibly extending the exhaust pipe on that generator there.
Okay.
So let's see. And of course, the hose tester needs replaced. We discussed that, I think, enough. Unless you'd like to talk about it some more.
I don't think so.
Okay, under training, fire and EMS training continues, and we're getting some calls for community service. We're going to be doing Hopewell credits.
Hopewell Federal.
Hopewell Federal. We got some extinguisher training. David and Barry's contacted, wants some CPR and first aid. I don't reckon we'll do that, but they at least inquired about that. Boeing, they had to postpone CPR classes, and then the security force up at Boeing wants first aid and CPR. There's only 2 of us currently that can do that at the station, but we offer that as a community service when we can do it. Weather siren rebanding, I still have not received a quote from either company, BNC or Dave Skeen's little company. So, that's supposed to be done by the first of the year. But I'll let you know as soon as I know something. I do have, Mayor signed a PO the other day, and I think that was for around $300, Mayor. I have since gotten a quote for $165 from somebody to do Station 2 versus the 3.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm going that route. That's at Station 2. And the other for Station One's about $500 less, but, you know, we talked about using our city employees, but that has not, worked out as of yet. We talked about it, but that's as far as it's gone. And it's been, Station 1, excuse me, Station 2's only had one sealed job on it for the 12 years it's been. So, anyway, computers at
Chief, hold on a
Station.
second, and I'm sorry, and I know that Bob's not here to speak on behalf of the street department, but it was talked about and what was said during those talks and what decision was made and.
There really wasn't any decisions made.
Okay.
Just, we need to talk about it.
All right. Let me step into that then, I guess, in a more direct manner. Let's get a definitive answer.
Okay.
Okay.
New business computer, I'm gonna need 2 new computers at Station 1. That was at the recommendation of Alpha Link. They did give us price quotes, and they 2 that have got some age on them. One especially.
Are these PCs or the ones that you take in the squads?
These are PCs. These are desktop units, towers, and Alpha Link recommended us quit buying cheap stuff that's Pavilion, HP Pavilion, which are home use type computers. And I know the last one I got was a Pavilion, and with the Vista system that they've totally done away with and had nothing but problems with, and I'm experiencing that now, and I had it the other day, and he said you need to get, the others using an XP operating system, which actually is had good luck with the system, but he recommended replacing both of them and gave us a price quote with just the towers. I mean, our screens and everything are still good, but about $900 a piece.
Are they running slowly or are they erroring out?
In my office, it's running extremely slow, and just he claims some of that is just the Vista system.
Yeah, Microsoft wishes that Vista hadn't happened, I think. That was a bad operating system.
But they came out with Windows 7, which was a revised Vista system.
Yeah.
And I bought a new computer, so I just.
How old is your computer?
My computer is only about 4 or 5 years old there. So
Really?
it's very old. The other, it hasn't been that bad, but I know we bought 2 of them at the time. Station Warren got a good deal over at Staples. But
So the 2 that I'm aware of that you have is the one that's in your office and then the one that's up by the front desk. Are those the 2 that you're talking about?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're not. So anyway, we're taking a look at that. And I probably have money in my budget to replace those if we have.
They were $900 a piece, is what they were quoting?
Yes.
Okay.
But that was a commercial grade. But I still don't know just what all come with the, I don't know if it's the Windows 7 Pro, but I don't know what other systems, you start buying licensing for your office stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much stuff it's got on this for that price, so
Okay.
we need some more information from that.
Okay.
The 17th of this month, we're hosting the county fire meeting. Other than that, the storm report.
What time is that?
That'll be at 7 o'clock.
7 p.m.?
Actually, the county meeting is at 6. We'll be serving dinner to however many firefighters show up. The chief's meeting is tomorrow night, and then every 3 months we have a county fire meeting that people from around the county come in, and it's our responsibility.
So is dinner at 6 and the meeting starts at 7? Is
That's
that how?
correct.
Okay.
But
And that's at Station 1?
that's at Station 1.
Okay.
And then just storm report, I think we've all went through, what's that? I said, we have to start by. Yeah, did you? Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't say where were the sirens. But,
That's why I didn't know.
it was interesting, and the mayor and I have had several conversations about it, and I think the city of Heath was pretty much on their own for a while. And we're gonna be in a statewide emergency for a while. And I know our fire department and our volunteers especially came out of the woodwork when we needed them, and staffed equipment, and took a lot of calls, and we're out with the street department. I mean, they did a nice job keeping the roads clear, and as well as our people were out with chainsaws getting the roadways, primary roadways cleared up, and taking calls. We had, as I said, at least 36 calls that we took, and some of those were mutual aids. We had a woman reported being trapped under a tree out on Ritchie Road, and it must have been 45 minutes to an hour before they finally got units out there. We sent 2 units that direction at different times, and the roadways were blocked, and we never could get a unit out that way. They were cutting off trees across the roads and such, but I think Madison and Hanover finally got out to somebody, but I don't know. I'm not aware of anything. Of course, it started out when the wind hit. We had an airplane crashed at the airport, and it sounds like he actually made it down to the runway and was just getting off the runway when the wind hit, picked the plane up, flipped it over, and I talked to him a couple days ago. His wife took 15 stitches in the head and actually fractured cervical spine 7 and T1. So very fortunate that she wasn't
Paralyzed.
That's correct.
Is she still in the hospital then?
Don't know any more than just what he had said, but she had quite a head wound and such. But well, I'll tell you, that was, of course, if you've driven by the airport, the roofs peeled off of the hangars. And, didn't take long to get wet. That's when I noticed the county radio system was down, and when we got back from those, well, we departed there, had a report of a house fire up on Burr Oak. So some of our units were taking care of the airplane victim, and we had mutual aid units and units from Heath responding up there, and it ended up just being wires arcing in a tree, and then it was just chaos for a while. When things settled down between calls, got in, and it was, I told the mayor, it was just very frustrating because I'm sitting in our station, I don't have any telephones, I can't call PD, we have no communications. The 800 went down for a while, my cellular was down, the city phones were down. The only thing working was VHF radio that we could still communicate with county fire, and so our trucks had communications, but it was just, I mean, talk about being a fish out of water and such. It was bad, yes.
Do you know,
And the county was just so overwhelmed with radio traffic at that point.
do you know that the Marks system in the county also function after the storm? I've been told that it did. Do you know anything about that?
Dave Skeen.
Or maybe that's on the law enforcement side. Maybe you know more about that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
What had you heard, Tony? Because
I didn't hear that the state system went down.
Dave Skeen had told me that don't let anybody tell you the Mark system didn't, that it had gone down to a fail-safe mode, which put everything on a single channel, and that they had a lot of problems with it. I won't say it went totally down, but it was just overwhelmed. So
Do you know, are they
we don't, I don't monitor that, nor do I choose to use it.
Do you know, are they going to plan to? Is Jeff Walker planning a formal after-action meeting among the various jurisdictions and such in Licking County to focus on things that were right, things that could be done better, and that kind of thing?
You would have a better idea than I do. on that.
Well, I
because of the
mentioned it
government
to him, but I didn't know. I mentioned it to him a few days ago, but I don't know. I didn't know maybe if you had heard anything more from him.
We
since.
have our LEPC meeting coming up on, I believe it's the 18th of July. It was postponed, and isn't that, Dick? Isn't that the 18th? And I'm sure there'll be some discussion about it, but I'm sorry? 19th. The 19th, excuse me. Yeah, we
I'll try to
truly
follow
need-
up with Jeff then.
Yeah, we truly do need to sit down as a county and, as we've talked, I'm sorry?
Because they postponed our meeting a week because he's gonna be, what kind of a special meeting? We're supposed to meet the 12th.
I can't remember. Yeah, Mark and I, he's got, that's some kind of a statewide meeting then. 12. But let's hope we'll be, that
Oh yeah. I mean, it needs to happen.
there were a lot of failures, in my opinion. But a lot of people stepped up and took care of their neighbors, and a lot of heathens that I had contact with tolerated it quite well and had a good attitude. That English would have called it a stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
But it was, you train for that stuff, and yet who would have dreamt that everything would go south of it very quickly, but everything played out pretty well, all in all. But as I said early on, if we hadn't gone up and checked on the fuel, and you talked with Mr. Carpenter and all that, some of the primary things, one of our problems was we had a lot of calls for oxygen. And, it is not our responsibility. Oxygen is a controlled substance. You have to have a drug license for it. And people were calling, they did not have spare bottles or enough oxygen. And so they expected the fire department to provide them with some breathing air. And a lot of them that use oxygen concentrators that are 110 plug in the wall, they didn't have power to operate that. And so I just know some of the services that I contacted, we couldn't make contact with. So,
You mean suppliers?
suppliers.
Yeah.
Lincare, when I finally did talk with them several different times, but if you weren't a customer, so.
My
those are
understanding
some of
was
the
is that the
areas.
state health department was supposed to try to address that problem. The thinking was is that then the county health department would coordinate with the state. I never heard much more about that. The only thing that I really saw that addressed, the only response that I saw that addressed anybody's needs for oxygen was when the Red Cross got the Cherry Valley Elementary School shelter open. They did have a capability for people to plug in to get oxygen. Because
Plug in
Cherry,
the wall and
that's, I don't know if they were expected to bring their own machines and plug them electrically into the wall, or if they had something there that they could just plug their oxygen hose into to get, to be able to breathe oxygen. But that was the only time that issue, that was the only solution that I knew of to that problem was at that shelter.
we had about 10 requests through the fire department,
And that shelter didn't open up till when? Tuesday? Monday? Monday at the earliest.
but I'm sure we could have received a lot more calls, but our phones were down. So, I mean, and that was another issue too. We were kind of isolated. If we didn't have our own personal cell phones or whatever, we would have not had any communications there for a period of time. So there's just a lot of things that we could do better. We could do better, and we can't do it all, that's for sure, but I think we could do better. We need to spend some time and critique it within the city. And anybody have any questions? Just that there. That care car, just off the top of my head, the railroad car thing that we had in here, there was 186 people that actually had gone through that. Firefighters, a few civilians, so it was well worth it. So, and I may have reported that before, but that's all I have. Anybody got any questions? Very good.
All right, we adjourn your meeting at 6:30. One moment here.
Yeah, extra, 187.
Extra what?
Please. Yeah. Yes. Should know.
All righty. Mr. Shepherd, you're on.
I'm up. June statistics, I'll breeze through these. Calls for service 1,510. Offense reports 122, arrests 42, accidents 32, and citations 112. And I've got the 3 years previous to the right of that. Overtime for the month of June, 13,545. Kind of a stark difference from last year on the good side. And year to date, 68,634. So, as compared to last year, those are good. False alarms, 35 total, 31 commercial, 4 residential, $50 in revenue, and then year to date, $3,287.50. I have 2 legislative requests. The first one is to appropriate $224.99 from within the general fund, transfer to Sergeant Black's uniform allowance. Make sure I get the story right. He bought an item through a vendor we don't typically use. Well, we don't use that often anyway. And it didn't fit. He returned the item, and instead of reimbursing him, they reimbursed the city. And
He like paid for it himself?
yes,
What was it?
I'm not sure what it was. You know, Sergeant Black is purchases both civilian and uniform attire. So anyway, he'd like to have that money put back in his uniform allowance. And since the check was went to the general fund, we need this legislative action just to get it moved back.
Just go ahead.
I just have a question. Just when you're saying that it was refunded to the city, would it normally be refunded to the officer, and then would they not have to use it for, I mean, would they just get cash back if they return something?
Well, generally, this is where Sergeant Black made a mistake. All uniform purchases, clothing or uniform, requires my authorization. And certainly what Sergeant Black bought, I'm sure was a requisite item of some sort, but he didn't check in with Wanda. Wanda is the vendor. She establishes relationships with all the vendors. I guess, long story short, had he gone through her and not returned it himself, she would have made sure that the checks or the reimbursement was generated properly. we don't run into this problem very often.
Hopefully I can see our chief, this check that came from All American Fire Equipment, it referenced that it was a refund from Craig Black, so it was truly his uniform allowance,
Yes.
and he just wants to get it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody want, did that answer your question? Anybody else have any questions on that? Thanks, Chief.
I have a second legislative request. Both these items are for the radio room. One's a computer, and one is a video audio monitor system for the reception area, the foyer, if you will. The desktop workstation. I'm sorry, I better read this first. The second legislative request is to appropriate $1,474 from within the Capital Improvements Fund to purchase a Dell desktop computer workstation and one video audio system to monitor the police reception area. The desktop is used in the radio room for leads. It's used exclusively for that purpose. We did have on our capital equipment two, but we're only going to need one computer, it looks like. The other item, you might wonder, why do we need to monitor the foyer? We've had instances where problems have erupted in the reception area, whether it be an arrest, whether it be a complaint of an officer, who, which is the most recent example in which we needed video and audio. We had a complaint against an officer, basically a rudeness. The complainant alleged that the officer was rude. The dispatcher couldn't hear the conversation because it's so faint, unless you're tuned in, so to speak. Plus, they're wearing headsets now. She didn't hear the conversation, so we couldn't prove or disprove the allegation. And you might recall, it's been 2 or 3 years ago, we had the guy armed with a knife that was trying to get into the police station. Unfortunately for him, Brad Fisher and he met out by the pop machine, and Brad won. So anyway, those are the kind, things like that. We need to capture that, and we need to improve the quality of the two-way speaker system in there too. I think it's tied into this, but there's a lot of business conducted in that foyer, and we need to be able to record and archive that, particularly for complaints and other matters that might occur out there. It's two different vendors. For the camera is Video Security Systems, and that's $396 for that system. The Dell computer, we're buying directly from Dell Government Services, and it by itself is $1,078.
So you don't think you're going to need the other computer, so you're coming in half of what you had expected for two computers.
Right. We anticipated two when we, a year ago when we submitted our proposal or our budget request. Yeah, you just, you know, it's just one of those things, not to be rare, but when you don't have the activity captured on video or audio.
Where, Chief, where would this PC go?
In the radio room.
We have to pay to have our software installed on it?
No.
Does it come pre-installed?
Yeah.
Dispatching software? I mean?
No. This is just a workstation, so to speak. It has nothing to do with our CAD or any of the other modules. It's just simply acts as a PC, but it's related to the leads side of the house.
Okay.
I probably should have had my computer expert, Lieutenant Mason, script out a better sales job. And I passed around a proposal, and I did have my smart guy write this up. And I certainly can attest to the need because we didn't have mobile computers when I became chief. And I was, when I was at Gehenna, I was involved with our mobile computing program, particularly in the purchase of the computers. We bought Data 911 computers, and I was so impressed with that product, and I'm even more impressed now because we did end up buying Data 911 computers in 2005, and here we are 7 years later, almost 8 years later. They're still functioning. Now they have some problems, some quirks, because of their age and because of older technology. But more to the point, not only do the computers need replaced, but Data 911 now has a mobile video system that is linked to their computer. The computers, we bought the top of the line computer in 2005. The computer we have now will not even operate some of these add-on modules that are available. And digital video is one of them. Ours will not run the digital video system that Data 911 has. You'll see in Lieutenant Mason's proposal that right now we have no cameras mounted in any of our cruisers. We tried to piecemeal it through the years, and finally the prosecutor's office told us either equip all your cars with them or don't have any. So at the time, the only option was to not have any. We had an analog and we had a digital. The digital I thought was the buy of the century, mil spec, used by the Navy and the Army, and that thing broke down all the time. Zero customer service, and so anyway, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's a good buy. I found that out. So anyway, we removed both cameras. We've been without cameras for a couple of years, and now that our computers are antiquated and in need of a replacement, we're talking a pretty good sum of money because of Data 911's leading edge technology as it relates to this digital video, it seemed like the right time to get video cameras in all the cruisers. I don't think I'd have to tell anybody here the advantage of having these cameras. And now, with technology today, these computers / video systems can be equipped with streaming video using the new 4G technology, cellular technology. Imagine being able to watch live when your officer stops a car. I mean, ever since these things came about in the 90s, I always thought, streaming video from a cruiser would be such an advantage, and the technology and the speed of the wireless just never got there. Well, it's here now, and GPS. These are equipped with GPS now. We want to equip 6 cars, and there's the quote I have here is $85,500. Now, the yellow lines represent things we can live without, certain accessories and what some might call luxuries, but we asked the representative to quote us what we thought would be ideal for us, and $85,000 is a lot of money.
And that's for all 6?
That's for all 6. That's with installation and other relevant costs. Now, the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight to give you that proposal and show you the need. And the one thing that they offer, I suppose all vendors might offer it. They have at least an option to buy, and they gave us some examples of some terms, but in each one, mostly based on the length or the terms, we're looking at an annual payment of anywhere, again, based on the length of the terms, $15,000 to $25,000 a year.
For how many years?
Well, they have a 3-year option and a 5-year option, and then the 3-year and the 5-year are broken into 2 with actually the only difference is when the first payment is due. One has a delayed deferred payment.
So is it money down and then
Yeah,
lease
well,
the rest?
Yeah, it's money down, in essence, your first payment. Just to cut to the chase, we make that much in our annual auction. The proceeds of our auctions that go to the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, not equal to that payment. And now I haven't. The other reason I didn't bring a legislative request, and I wanted you to be able to chew on that, and I haven't even had a chance to talk to the auditor to see if he could find better terms. Perhaps he could. Seems a little, I guess, a little high. 6% for 3 years.
6 1/4 is the lease rate, it says.
Mm-hmm.
Is there only one vendor for this type of equipment?
No, there is not. But one of the advantages, some would call it a disadvantage, I call it an advantage. These are not portable. They stay in the cruisers. They're hard mounted into the cruisers. They're not like a laptop. They're not portable, but they're cot proof in that way that they don't get taken in and out of cars and in and out of houses. Just in my experience, in my observation, it just, that simple fact alone makes them more durable. And having 2 occasions to work with Data 911, just impressed with their customer service. The gentleman that I purchased the Data 911 computers from when I was at Gahanna is the same. Of course, he's climbed the ladder of success. He's now a regional manager, but he came here and talked to us about our needs and gave us this quote.
But for this kind of a dollar amount, we're gonna have to get quotes.
Right. That kind of.
This is the first one that you've got.
Oh, this is the only one we've got. Really, like I said, I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you about the need and about a little bit about the technology that's available, and the fact that there is a payment plan of sorts, and that I think history would bear out that we make that much in our law enforcement trust fund a year.
Let me ask you a question. What and Lieutenant Mason, tell him I appreciate him putting this together. I mean, I think it encapsulates the topic pretty well. Are we hearing from the county prosecutor's office that they are somehow having a more difficult time prosecuting our cases because we don't have video in the cars compared to other departments in the county who do?
Well, not necessarily, but you can't argue with a video. If you think about something like a drunk driver, no, it's not, our conviction rate is not suffering. Officers provide good testimony and physical evidence, but with this ability now to do live streaming, I see it as a safety factor as well. To be able to watch the officer while he or she is engaging a traffic offender, for example. And believe me, there's a lot of times we wish we had, and we didn't. And we even sold, kind of off topic, we had one video that the crime what was it? Disorderly Conduct was the name of the show. If you remember a few years ago on cable TV, they got a copy of one of our stops, and I never did get to see the episode, but.
So are these, so we've got them in each of the cars. Obviously, not all of the cars are all out 24/7, but we have one in each of the cars. Is the streaming video of it recorded? I mean, is it something that the officers can turn off and turn on, or is it once they leave the parking lot, boom, it's on, and it's not off until they return?
Well, we can set them up. Now, one of the other things too, if you look through the quote, is that we certainly would be interested in is Wi-Fi dumping. By that I mean when the officer pulls in to the parking lot, it automatically downloads whatever footage is on the camera. Some departments used a vault system wherein the tape or whatever recording means is used, the officer has no access to. The sergeant has to take it in now. That precludes any incidents where an allegation is made against an officer and it mysteriously is not on the tape or the disc or whatever recording method you use. So you can essentially set these up any way you want. The neat thing about digital, it has a continuous loop. So if you're sitting at an intersection and you see somebody blitz through a red light, you can have it activate with your lights. The camera will come on when the officer turns on his or her emergency lights. And since it's got a loop, it'll capture the previous 60 seconds, or I think they're up to 3 minutes now, some of them. And you'll see that offense. Even though the camera wasn't on, it's always on in a sense. But you can turn it on after the fact and capture what you saw with your eyes. So that was what was neat about the digital systems. But
I'm curious to have a better understanding of how all the capabilities of something like this. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty far reaching.
Yeah, it's that's the new technology. Certainly, Lieutenant Mason can explain it better than I. As I always say, I'm the radio guy, he's the computer guy. And again, just putting a bug in your ear, it's on our wish list. Replacing the computers is going to become a necessity because of their age. And as I already presented, we need to either have cameras or not have them. And I would, given an option, I'd rather have them, especially given what they can do now.
So, would the dispatchers be able to see them real time what's happening?
Yes.
I mean, if an officer pulls somebody over and gets jumped, would the dispatcher then be able to call for assistance right then?
Yes. And I was unable to meet with Mr. Thompson, the regional sales manager that came in. John spoke to him at length. If you're using cellular phone technology right now, you can't watch all. If you want to understand, you have to select which cruiser, for example, they would want to watch. So obviously, whichever one's making a traffic stop.
That's who the dispatchers don't want to watch.
It's got to do with you know, the speed and you know, of the,
In an area like where I live, where cell phone reception stinks, that video then can just be uploaded once they get back here.
right,
Is that how it works?
yes. And, you know, and it's much better than using, discs and things of that nature that can break, and, you know, you have to handle, you have to archive them. You just, basically, you just set up a hotspot in the back lot, and when the cars pull in, it just automatically downloads and it automatically updates when the cars or when the computers require some updating.
I think it's a concept worth continuing to look into. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to do. I think.
Sounds like Lieutenant Mason has a project then.
Yes.
All right.
That he does.
Let's get a couple other companies at least, so that we understand not just comparable costs but capabilities.
Mhm.
You know, maybe some other system is a little bit more, but maybe it gives you one or two other tools that this system doesn't, or something like that. So let's you know, let's have Lieutenant Mason, you know, thoroughly look into this solution, and then we can kind of pick what capabilities we want, what we don't want, what they'll cost. We can put it together like that.
Very good. Chief, hold on one sec. Jeff, he had his hands before out there. Tim has a question, then Jeff has a question for you on the side.
Also, check in, what do you do with the old ones?
The old ones, we could probably sell. Again, we bought the biggest and fastest ones we could 5 years ago. So maybe there's a small department out there that would like to have them.
I mean, it's something to check into to see what we can get out of them, you know, rather than just throw them in the.
I don't remember if
That sounds like Auditor Alexander project.
Yeah.
the you know, if we wanted to, our screens and our keyboards will work on this new system. So we could, yeah, we could reduce the costs even more. And like I said, we've highlighted the things we could live without. I just, you know, wanted to give you an idea of what the costs were, the needs, and I think I've accomplished that.
Now, is he marking out the GPS module?
Yeah, you know, that's something, that's a, I think it is, and I think the streaming video is important too, and I don't even think that's listed as, I think it's listed as an option, it's not part of the cost.
Jeff, you had a question?
You say you're pro hardwiring these. What if you're changing out police cars to mileage? They're easy enough to unhardwire.
Mhm.
And they're easily convertible to the next
Yeah,
model.
this batch here has probably been through 3 cars.
Well, that's our present system.
Yeah.
This new system will also
They'd be
do
done
the
the
same.
same way.
Yeah, same way. Same, same concept. You know, it's, for example, the hard drive is mounted in the trunk, and, you
When
know.
we got the chargers, they had to be worked on installing, taking them out of the Crown Vic and installing them into the charger.
Yeah, that was the only change. We had to buy mounts because our Crown Vic, we bought mounts specific to the Crown Victoria. And that was the only issue.
Yeah, I'd like to think the system would outlive some of the
Yeah,
average life of a police cruiser in this city.
yeah, well, as a matter of fact, the mounts we have for the Chargers, the officers prefer to what the layout of the Crown Victoria was. Yeah, and I don't use them; they do. So,
Chief Lonnie has a question for you.
Well, it's more of a comment. I just think the having the capability of having another set of eyes through that dispatcher, being in real-time contact with that officer, and being able to see from a different vantage point of what that officer can see from, I think that'd just be a wonderful thing as far as safety.
Yeah, and you know, I often said through the years, as I lost officers, well, if I can't have officers, at least give me equipment to keep them safe. And I've been very fortunate here that our numbers are few, but we've got the finest equipment in this county and many others. And generally, it's there's some kind of safety advantage, be it the rifles, or, you know, the computer modules, the add-ons that we have.
Would our officers wear a remote mic with this?
Yes.
Okay. So then you'd be able to hear, if you're stopping somebody, you'd be able to hear what that person's saying.
Oh, you can go into a house on a call,
Uh-huh.
and it'll transmit 1,000 feet.
Wow.
And
Well, wow.
so you
That's
can record.
Wow.
Question?
Basically a statement. I think it's fantastic. I think it's absolutely necessary. And it would be a great spot for some flood stabilization fund.
Are there any other departments that have this kind of
This is
equipment in the area?
No. I'll make sure, but I think it's safe to say no. No, at least live streaming. With the live streaming, it's relatively new concept, and there's some kind of subscription service because it's well, it's internet based. I'm sorry, I probably should have had John here to explain it better.
Well, I mean, we're not doing it tonight. So
Right,
that's fine.
right, but
I'm wondering too, if there's nobody else in Licking County and Franklin County, does City of Columbus have this type of technology now? And
no, I can tell you they don't.
I'm just wondering if there's other departments around where we can pick their brains.
Oh, I'm
what,
sure.
What do they like? What do they don't like? What do
Yeah.
they wish they had? What do they say? You know, we really don't use this, even though we got it. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's try to learn from others.
Right.
If there are others on them.
Yeah, and you know, I would, you know, we'd have to have a demo when we got down to the point where we could get serious consideration.
Chief,
Well,
I think that'd be important for us too. I mean, as a group here, I think it, you know,
Yeah,
be really good for everybody to be able to see that demo.
yeah. They left us a demo, not so much for live streaming or anything, but it's the new model computer with multiple cameras, and they set it up in the patrol officer's room for about a week. And you can watch a prisoner. They even have a module to do automatic license plate readers, and it uses the camera that comes with their
Pick up the license plates as
Yes.
you're going by them.
right, and it's not the you know the wild looking four cameras mounted on the fenders pointing this way and that way, but
Will that camera reader automatically run the plates as it season?
yeah.
I'll have to
And in Ohio, you have to have a front plate. So
You're gonna be
as they're coming at you, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, do they read on the
Yeah, yeah, that's actually been one of the drawbacks with these license plate readers, because you can put warrants, anything. If there's a hit, even for a misdemeanor warrant, the officer feels compelled to turn around and go back to the parking lot or make a U-turn and stop the car, and so it keeps them busy.
How many will that be?
Oh,
Continuous? I mean,
milliseconds.
You can have a police car just parked right over here and just literally watch traffic go by and pick up warrant
Yeah.
potential.
Or stolen, the main reason is they're stolen vehicles, but,
That's the advantage of having a state where the license plate's required in the front.
They had a video on TV, I think, showing similar technology.
City Hall, fixing them off.
Sounds like Lieutenant Mason has a project.
yes, yes.
Better
Better
he than me.
when it comes to computers. Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Lastly, but certainly not least, I do have the quotes from the other two vendors for the proposed impound lot, more specifically the building that I recommended. And I have a quote from Cleary Building, and thanks for reminding me that they're here, right here in town. And we have one from Sleigh Ball Construction in Mount Vernon. And we sat down with both salespeople and gave them specifics as to what we required, the layout, the size, so on and so forth. So it's essentially an apples to apples comparison. Now, personally, I'm impressed with the Cleary Building Corporation, which is just about across the street, in both their product line and their work ethic. This is from Cleary. That's the quote, and multiple pages, breaks it down. This is from Sleigh Ball, and that's it. This is not the actual building, but they have Cleary has standard buildings. Ours would be very similar to this one. See if I can show to you. And Sleigh Ball quoted us a post-frame barn with meeting the same requirements and dimensions, but that don't look bad. So that's a pretty reasonable facsimile of what ours would look like. Even the coloring. So now to the numbers, the more important. Sleigh Ball's quote was $86,300, and Cleary's was $72,383. However, to be fair, not quoted in the Cleary building is heating and cooling, which Sleigh Ball quoted as $7,500. Also not quoted in the Cleary building is electrical and lighting, which Sleigh Ball Construction quoted as $8,500. So to make it more comparable, I subtracted from their quote the $7,500 and the $8,500, not contained in Cleary. So after you subtract that amount from Sleigh Ball, they are about $1,500 less than Cleary. And this is Sleigh Ball, and this is Cleary. I'm kind of visual person.
What was the amount of the first quote?
The amount of the first quote was $86,300, but it includes.
No, I'm sorry. On here it says review second and third bids. What was the amount of the first?
Oh,
bid?
the first one was the one I brought in when everybody fell out of their chair because it was a national firm.
Oh yeah, that's
It was close to $80,000.
yeah.
And that was for the product only, and then we had to build it ourselves.
Yeah.
So, but it was a nice building though.
Does Cleary do air conditioning and electric? Or are we
Yes.
thinking of doing it
Did
or
they
what?
know that that should have been part of this bid?
No, we didn't. We sat down with.
Slaybaugh understood that we would probably want lights in the building.
Well, it's a given. Now,
Yeah.
The reason he didn't quote, I don't know about the sleigh ball, but the McCleary building has vents or what do you call those? It lets the light in. They're panels. Translucent. Nice. And of course it would be facing this direction, which would give it the most light. So for all general purposes, that's all, mostly what we need is just natural light, except with
in there at night.
right. Well, what I'm saying is, let me be more specific.
You can go in at night only when there's a full moon.
The building's divided into a secure and non-secure area. Now, one of
Let's put this in. No, it's not.
One of the things we needed was climate control for a property room. So 1/3 of the building would be exclusively for a property room and would need climate control and obviously lighting. Yes, we have to have lights and we have to have climate control.
Fire protection, what kind of?
911.
I mean, for what you're gonna store in there, your records, I would hope you've got some in that building right now, but it's a larger building and things. In
Well,
storage, but you'd still wanna have some sort of,
I use First Alert exclusively.
I'm sorry,
First Alert,
okay.
you can buy at the drugstore. So
Okay.
That was a joke.
We've got a detector program, we'll give you a couple. There you go, I'm
So you don't have to even buy them.
Love that interdepartmental cooperation so
Oh, we still love each other.
I still. No, I think Chief's right. I mean, we need to.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense to have some sort of a fire suppression system in there, right?
Sure.
At least detection, I mean.
Suppression.
Unless you have to.
Another $50,000 if you're gonna put a sprinkler system.
I still don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to show you.
Just put one in.
Okay. I promised you a field trip tonight, so we're going to take you out. But on the way there, I would like to take the opportunity to show you, because I bet hardly any of you have ever seen the property room we have. So, like you to see the property room, like you to see the barn when we go out here, and show you what we have to work with now. And so I can reiterate the importance of having a property room and a facility to, for example, process a car or a large item, particularly cars. Because when you see what we got to work with out here in the barn, you'll wonder how we were able to do it.
Did everyone get their permission slip signed for the field trip?
Yep.
Now, are we gonna be adjourning to those locations so we don't have to meet back in there to adjourn?
We'll be finished after that.
so we can adjourn to those locations.
We're gonna adjourn to the location.
So moved, we should, letting you subcontract those, or we're, I mean, he.
Well, no, he can do them.
Oh, he can do.
Yeah, he can, he can do all of it.
Whatever you guys wanna work out.
Okay, well, we'll take notes for you.
Hey, what's that gal's name?